Okay, so this is a $40 wired controller from PDP, and I wanted to give you guys my full and complete thoughts on this controller to see if maybe this is a good choice for you, or it just might not. Now, this is a $40 controller, it's wired, so I wanted to see if this controller actually delivered a good experience. In the box, you get the controller, and you also get a USB-C cable, which you do need to use a controller. It's not a wireless controller, you do need the wire. Now, I wanted to talk about the design and the overall aesthetic of this controller first. I opted for the all black design. There is a white one on Amazon, but personally, I like the way the contrast between the RGB lighting and the black overall design of the controller looked. I thought it looks a lot cleaner than the white one. But the white one's there if you guys want to go ahead and opt in for a different option. Now, first impressions of the controller is that it doesn't really feel that good in hand. It feels a little cheap, and it doesn't feel as good as an original Xbox controller. But again, most of the time for third-party accessories, they don't feel as good as the original. But I was thinking, you know, it's pretty close in pricing, so maybe because of that, it would feel better, but it doesn't. Now, I would say it's more of the sense of like quality of it. It just doesn't feel as premium. From the feel of it, you would think this is more of a $20, maybe $30 controller tops, but it's not. It's $40, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. Overall, though, the feel, the buttons, it's pretty similar to the original Xbox controller. Now, everything on the front of the controller is almost the same. Of course, you have the RGB lighting on the handles of the controller and the ring light around the sticks as well. Now, another thing you will find to be different is the middle Xbox button. It doesn't illuminate, but instead it has a little light bar above it to let you know that it is on. When pressing down on the paddles, they have a hard click in comparison, as you can hear in this example. Now, what do you guys prefer, the softer click on the original controllers or kind of like the really clicky buttons on this PDP controller? I don't know, I prefer the original. The controller has a mute button right on the controller, which is super convenient while in game, and the headphone jack is a little different with just the input in the middle, unlike the Xbox branded controller. Now, another awesome little detail is the audio controls located right on the D-pad. The way to activate these is holding the middle triangle button at the bottom of the controller and pressing the buttons on the D-pad. Note, to mute your headset, double tap the triangle button and it should turn orange. That's when it's muted. To unmute, double tap it again and it should turn off. Now, moving on to the top of the controller, you have the paddles, triggers, and your USB-C input. This is a wired controller, which means you do need the cable to be able to use this. So if you're looking for a wireless controller, this is not the controller for you. I will link down some in the bio below. So if you guys are looking for wireless, go down to the bio. In the box, you also get a USB-C cable that's about 8 feet long. Honestly, it works perfect for my setup, so the length isn't much of a deal breaker. But make sure you keep that in mind when it comes to your own personal setup and the distance between your TV, monitor, or whatever from your actual chair. And to be fair, the bumpers feel pretty good with the right amount of clickiness to them. I actually prefer them over the Xbox branded controller. The triggers have a texture to them for grip, but honestly, the grip isn't that deep, so it doesn't really do much. It just looks kind of cool in my opinion. And when pressing down on them, they feel good. They're super responsive, but feel slightly cheaper when comparing them to the standard original controller. Now, I prefer the original Xbox controller when it comes to the triggers, as they feel better when pressing them down and releasing them. And the grip on them is a lot better too. It feels as though they're actually doing something. Lastly, you have the PDP branding here, which is super minimal and doesn't stand out too much. It's subtle and it looks perfect exactly where it is. The back of the controller is different, as it features 2 programmable back buttons to create a more seamless gaming experience. If you haven't yet experienced a controller with back buttons or back paddles, you definitely have to. It changes the entire dynamic of your gameplay, and it definitely gives you an edge when you're playing games kind of like Call of Duty or Apex Legends. So definitely give these controllers a try. Now, when I first used my remote in game, the back buttons were already programmed for me. The one on the right was set to the A button and the one on my left was set to a B button. You can change this though, and I'm going to teach you guys how to do so. To do so, all you guys have to do is hold the middle triangle button. While holding this button, you're going to pick which button on the back you want to program. For example, let's do the right button. So just go ahead and tap on it. It's then going to start flashing orange. That means it's in programming mode. You can now pick which button you want on the controller to be assigned to the back button. Let's go ahead and pick the B button. And that's pretty much it. That's how you program the buttons on the back. It's pretty simple, but if you guys have any questions or you guys run into any issues, let me know down in the comments below. I'm also going to put an article in the bio to basically highlight all these steps or maybe troubleshooting steps that you guys might need to take for this controller to work properly. Lastly, there is a grip on the back of the controller itself. Obviously, it would seem to be used for sort of a grip, but it doesn't really grip anything. I feel like it's just kind of there for show. So that's just something to keep in mind when you guys see this controller. Now, something cool with the Afterglow controller is that it comes with dedicated software, which will work on both your PC and your Windows device. And I think this is really cool for a $40 controller. And I'm going to show you guys all the little things that you can actually change within this software. So you have what is called the PDP Control Hub, which will be available on your PC and on your Xbox. On PC, when you don't have the controller plugged in, it will ask you to connect your controller. So plug it in and it should pop up. Select it to bring up your menu. Now here in the main menu, you will see all of your main configurations from your audio, remapping buttons, your audio, and lastly, you got your customer service, just in case you guys have any issues, whatever they may be. The app has literally every option you might need to make this experience the best possible. From adjusting dead zones, adjusting the vibration strength on the controller, and setting up the RGB lighting on this controller as well. I gotta give props to the PDP team. They did a fantastic job with this piece of software. Now, I wanted to touch a little on the customization of the RGB lighting because I think it really stood out to me. Now, usually you'll have it where these controllers have pre-installed effects and just static colors, and that's everything it comes with. But this one really goes above and beyond, and it gives you the 8 lighting zones, which allows you to really customize this controller to your specific liking. And I think this is what sets this controller apart from all the other controllers out there right now. Now, this controller does have some pre-installed lighting effects. One, you have the static, wave, breathing, rumble, pulse, and then you have your ripple. Now, I do want to say that when I've set up the colors on the programming software, the colors are honestly not that accurate. They're not the best. If you guys have ever used Govee Light, they probably have some of the best color accuracy I've seen on any sort of RGB product. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. For example, the other night I wanted to make a patterning of blue and orange. Now, the blue looks pretty accurate, but the orange just looks mostly yellow. I think for the next version that comes along, PDP needs to work on the lighting of the controller because some of the colors are just not accurate and it takes away from all the amazing work that they've done for the software. Now, I mentioned that you can control all your sort of sound settings within the D-pad of your controller, but you can actually take this a step above and you can use the software to customize the sounds on your controller, which I think is great. Now from the home, tap on the controller, go to audio, press begin, and here you can change the sound volume, your mixer, which is basically where you want to hear either more within your headset of the game or your online chat. So you can either mix it perfectly down the middle, or you can go either more in-game sound or more of the chat sound. I think that's pretty cool. You can also mute your mic and monitor it as well. Now, there's a ton of customization to the controller, which I find to be what really separates this controller from the competition. Now, again, that's something to keep in mind. It's a wired controller. So do all of these features make this controller a bang for your buck? I don't know. That's a little bit for you guys to decide. Okay, now with all of that out of the way, let's talk about performance. Now, how does the controller actually perform in game when it actually matters? Gaming on the Afterglow has been a great experience. The overall feel of the controller is great, and I've experienced no discomfort with it at all, almost like playing on an original Xbox controller. Now, in my hands, I can tell this is a third party, and unfortunately, it doesn't feel that premium while gaming. It doesn't have the feel as you would have with, of course, sort of an Elite controller. It's hard to compare. The Elite controller is like $100+, and this is $40, right? But $40 is not that far off from the OG controller price, and it doesn't feel anywhere near as premium as that. I've been mainly using this controller to play through my Callisto Protocol experience, so I haven't really had that much online experience besides playing some casual Halo Infinite. The buttons are super responsive, and the clickiness to them feels good. The lighting on it looks awesome, and it makes for a fun experience while gaming. If the lights are too bright, you can always turn them down as well. Now, the back buttons work perfectly, and the placement on them is set to where your middle finger is sitting right on the buttons. For me, this placement works extremely well. It's a wired controller, so there's no battery life you actually need to worry about, and the cable is long enough for you to lay in bed and play games comfortably. If you have a large living room, you might want to look into getting a longer cable, as this one runs about 8 feet, but I don't know. I feel like for most people, 8 feet should be long enough. Now, my only gripe with gameplay is the triggers. They don't feel as good, and it feels as though they'll break in a few months. But again, that's just an opinion. That's not a fact, so take that with a grain of salt. This controller may very well last me years. Now, my final thoughts are pretty clear already, and I like to base them off of 2 separate things. One is the price, of course, and 2 is the overall experience that is delivered based on this price. Now, this controller is great in many aspects. Actually, in most aspects, it's awesome from its customization, the aesthetic, and the performance, but it fails for me in a very crucial one. And again, that's just a personal opinion. And that's the fact that it's a wired controller that is priced at $40. Personally, I hate wired controllers. I hate laying in bed and having to feel the drag of the wire. I hate when my dogs pass over the cables and pull on them, etc. You guys kind of get the overall idea of why I don't like wired controllers. And this wouldn't be such a big deal if the price wasn't $40. Like if the controller was priced at around $20, maybe $25, no problem. I kind of understand. And you get a ton of features for that price. The thing is, like, $40 is pretty close to a wireless controller's price. And at the end of the day, I much rather get a wireless controller. That's just me. Now, I know for some people that's not going to be a big issue. And again, that's why I keep mentioning that is just an opinion here. I think a solid price point in the future for this controller would be probably around $30. I think this would make it a great bang for your buck. Now, what do you guys think out there? Do you guys think that for the price and everything that is delivered by PDP with this controller is worth that price point? Let me know down below. Hit the like button if you guys enjoyed the review and found it informative, and subscribe to the channel as we are making our push for 10,000 subscribers. But with that, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.